fingers crossed we're right. Yeah, we just got the notification, so hello. We're back again for a proper edition of the LSU Report, not just me going solo. We're back with the co-hosts, obviously just making sure we're going live and getting the link in the group so you can all watch it. But meanwhile, while that happens, we'll introduce the show, of course, and as I said, we have the co-host back again. Hey. It's been a few weeks without him and a proper podcast for a variety of reasons, but you're back now. And how's it going, Chris Leach?
Very well, very well. It's lovely to be back. It's lovely to be broadcasting to you and the world. If the world is watching, that is. In theory, they could be. So, yeah. Oh, look, here we are.
Oh, look. It's even coming through the TV. Look. We need to adjust ourselves slightly.
Look at this.
Here.
This is why we do this.
There we go.
I can look at myself on the TV whilst talking to you.
See, look, you just...
Wow.
I've done a terrible job of this, everyone. I apologise.
This is looking at me, looking through a TV. There's three of me.
There's three of you. That is terrifying.
That is terrifying.
Right, no, that's a complete overcorrection.
I don't want to do that. Look how many of me there are.
We're getting there. That's... That way. Oh. This is really confusing. Why is it...
You now can't see me at all. You only see my
Yeah,
hands.
I don't know what... Okay, this last adjustment should do it. We're about to see 1, 2, 3. There we go.
Possibly. Come in.
I'm going to move the chair back.
That's it.
This is just an expert start of the show. You can tell we're a bit rusty.
Don't worry, people. We will get there.
This is just an expert start of the show. You can tell we're a bit rusty. Oh, look, it's like podcast action. There's the perfect view. Right, there we go.
Look at this. It's like bit after bit after bit. This is incredible.
Yeah, right. Anyway, enough of that. So I will I will copy the link into the group for all of you lovely people out. So you may watch at your no one's seen the message anyway, so we're probably going to be doing this now. But hey ho, you can skip the first.
That's right.
Few minutes.
At least that you can.
So
unedited. All live.
Back to the podcast.
Yes.
So, yeah, we're back after a few weeks, and of course, it is now the final week of the season. The final week of the season. It's been a longer ride. It's been a good ride for some, not so much for others. But hey ho, we're here now, and that's the main thing. And of course, we will start with the league news as we always do. And it's ever important final week for so many playoff reasons and otherwise. So
absolutely.
Here we go. So first of all, we've got Matthew Stafford. He got his hand trod on last week by a big defensive linesman. Nothing you would wish upon anyone. So he's been limited all week. We'll have to see if he suits up. What else we got here? Devin Funchess kind of did his arm at the end of the game against the Saints. He extended to keep a ball in on onside kick. He failed at doing so and injured himself in the process, but he will play. But he's got a tough matchup. Tank plays Mark Ingram. He's got a toe injury. He hasn't practiced at all this week. And they're playing tonight. From what I'm hearing, he will play. Though, Greg Olsen, he missed last week's game after returning from his broken foot. But he's practicing in full this week, so he should be good to go. Marquise Lee did not practice, probably just a rest day. I would imagine he would be fine as well. Other than that, I think we're all looking fine there. Tom's Tyrants, Blau Powell, he's fine. Doug Martin, he had a concussion and missed last week's game. Slated to return this week, but to what role is the question with the emergence of Peyton Barber? Murray Cooper did not practice again. He had a concussion. I think he missed last week's game, or maybe he got it in last week's game. Either way, I'm pretty sure he's cleared now, so he should be good for the game on Sunday. Their necessities, Jermaine Kearse, he'll be fine. Delaney Walker, he'll be fine. Just a rest day for an old guy. John Brown, I think he's playing at the moment, so I'll assume he's fine. If not, well, you're probably not playing with that. Cashford Gold, Cam Newton Limited, he's been that all season, so he'll be fine. Fudge Flyers, LaShawn McCoy Limited, he'll be fine. Fitzgerald, old guy, rest day, he'll be fine. Jeremy Macklin Limited participant, I think he played last weekend, so he should be good.
Yeah, he's got a back problem. He's always got a back problem.
Of course.
This year.
Rashad Matthews, limited participant, again, I think he'll be fine. Will Fuller should return this week, from what I'm hearing, but
he's got
still dicey.
Still some fairly well-cracked ribs there. So.
Yeah, love those cracked ribs. Ixon, Robbie Anderson for participant, he'll be fine. Emmanuel Sanders, he did his ankle in again last week. Will be debatable if we see him. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Zach Ertz's got a concussion. He's not looking good for the weekend. Jameis Winston returned last weekend as well, and he should be good to go this weekend for whatever that's worth. ADRZ, Jonathan Stewart did not practice again. It's an old guy rest day. Damian Williams should return. He missed last week's game. Rob Gronkowski is suspended for a hit he put on Tre'Davious White when he was face down on the floor.
Probably deserves it, then.
Yeah, kind of did. Robert Woods did not practice. He's missed the last couple of weeks for the shoulder injury. Might return, but again, one to keep an eye on. And Juju Smith-Schuster is also suspended for a peel-back block on Vontae's birthday. So.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Sterling Shepard did not practice. I can't remember what's up with him, but they're going to need him, so he'll probably also up. Adrian Peterson did not practice. He missed last week's game. Not quite sure what the injury is, can't remember. But
some sort of head injury, I think.
Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on that. No luck, he comes back. Jordan Reed did not practice. I think that's been his hamstring.
That hamstring's is gone.
Yeah, he ain't coming back this week.
No.
Amir Abdullah, limited participant. He missed last week's game, I think, with a knee problem. Might suit up again. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Pakistan, Alex Collins has been having migraines, but from what I'm hearing, he'll be good to go for Sunday. Joe Mixon will not play, I do not think. 2 days in, he suffered a concussion, still not practicing, still not cleared, very unlikely to play. Dak Prescott, full participant, he should be fine. He hurt his hand as well, I believe. Christian McCaffrey, a full participant, he'll be good to go. Tom Brady did not practice today, he's having a rest day, as he has done for the last few weeks, the first day of the week, practice. Jimmy Graham, perennially injured, who cares, he'll play. Matt Forte did not practice, again, probably just an old guy rest day, I think he returned last week. Jamal Charles did not practice, who really cares?
Same sort of thing, always
CJ Fedora is now on IR. I can't remember the injury he suffered, but he's done. And that is our injury news, so we will now go to the transactions, and the first one we have, Tank McTankers as Peyton Barber for $7, dropped Chicago Bears D, not bad out at the start of the season.
No. All a bit irrelevant, but yes, it's it. Not a bad, not a bad pickup. Yeah. I guess it prevents everyone else from picking him up. So.
Absolutely, and we've still got forfeit playoffs to come back, worry about, which we'll come back to after we do this. So what else happened? Bare Necessities added the Bengals defense for $5 and dropped the Raiders defense. Gridiron Gang added Andy Dalton for $3 and dropped Tyrod Taylor. They also added Cowboys defense for $3 and dropped the Rams D.
It's the best $6 you can spend all year.
Yeah, absolutely. Palestine added the Packers defense for nothing and dropped the Titans defense. Bare Necessities then added Matt Prater and dropped Alan Hearns. What else we got? Footflyers, I love this one. They added Ricky Seals-Jones. No one saw that coming ever in any spectrum of time or existence.
Absolutely.
For Vernon Davis. And Gridiron Gang added Giovanni Bernard and dropped Danny Woodhead. And that is your waiver move. So, before we dip into last week's games, we will just cover off the stuff about the forfeit playoffs and indeed the normal playoffs because it's important. So, normal playoffs, so as you should all know this by now, it's pretty cut and dry. So the top 4 teams, the 3 division winners, then the next best team with the record, and if the record is tied then on points, will make the playoffs. First seed will play 4th seed. First seed is now confirmed as my co-host here, Forge Flies. No spoilers though, but they probably already had it in hand to be honest. And they will play the 4th seed, which will be the wild card team, so the non-division leading team. And then the 2nd and 3rd place will be the other 2 divisions, so the winner of Portsmouth Division versus the winner of Winchester Division. So that is the normal playoff setup.
We'll go through the permutations later. Yeah. So there are many permutations to have here.
But forfeit playoffs in the meanwhile, we introduced this last year as our new alternative to what we had before, which was the obviously kind of bowl system to figure out a draft pick. Now we have the forfeit playoffs, which, so 11 will play 12. This year it's called the Tank Bowl.
Yep, that's it, because you did tank.
Indeed. 9 v 10 will play each other in the Super Bowl, I want to say I called it.
Possibly.
7 v 8 plays in the Fish Bowl.
There's a Fish Bowl, there's a Fruit Bowl somewhere as well.
Yeah, and that's 5 v 6.
Okay.
And then those are all 2-week matchups, don't forget that's important.
You can find all of these on the Facebook group.
Hopefully. Yeah, I messaged it at some point. Yeah, so that's a 2-week matchup. It's pretty cut and dry. 11 v 12. Doesn't matter the names too much as more as who you're playing, which we'll keep track of. So 2-week matchups. Then 3rd v 4th place will play one week in week 16. Then that'll be the 2 teams that get eliminated from the playoffs in the first round. So they'll play each other, and then obviously the two teams in the Corona Bowl don't do the forfeit playoffs because they've got more important things to do.
Indeed. That's it.
But the forfeit playoffs, so that's the structure, who plays who and for how long. The other really important part of this is you must arrange with your opponent a forfeit. You can have different ones based on if you win or if they win, or you can have a common one that just depends on who wins or loses. But you must arrange that ideally before the games start, because otherwise last year it didn't kind of work. And so think about that. We'll know the matchups hopefully by Sunday, in some cases Monday, in others. So then you know who you're playing, and you can arrange your forfeit with them. Get that to me, or post it in the group. We'll keep track of it, and then whoever wins, the other person has to do the forfeit, whatever that is decided to be. So that's the forfeit playoffs.
Yeah.
Kind of fun.
It is, very much so. That's it, and I must admit,
we got some funny ones last week. You're talking up of Tom's Tyrants.
It's still going. I mean,
still going.
They still have a chance of winning their forfeit bowl. So
that's a fact.
They may or may not make it to the Tag Bowl.
I think they've just about avoided. We'll check all that in a bit, but we'll check all that in a bit.
They can't win the IOC.
Yeah, we had obviously Tuckfarter just changed their name to Tank for Tagface, which was a great one.
Absolutely, which should stay, I think.
I mean, yeah.
I think I like that, but that's it. That's it.
I had to wear women's underwear over my suit to the draft, which was
dear.
Yeah, that sums that up. I think Ollie Gardner and my dad, they had to say good job to each other. Not sure if they've even done that yet, but hey ho. We want better ones than that, people. And what was... I can't remember the others, but that's the flavour. So come up with your own thing and agree with your counterpart. So,
absolutely.
In terms of other league news, I don't think I can think... Only come around and watch the games if you want. Obviously, getting near Christmas, people will show up. You'll be home. You're all welcome to come and watch the games at ours on Sunday, especially in playoff and Corona Bowl time.
Absolutely.
We like a big crowd there.
Absolutely. Got to have a crowd.
We'll be able
for the Corona Bowl.
Yeah.
Come on. If you can't get a crowd, then when can you get a crowd?
Yeah, exactly. And also, I will be releasing the award nominees next week. I'm writing it up now. For each award, 4 nominees, and that article will come out next week. Maybe in 2 parts. I might do one week and then one the next week.
Okay.
And then we'll announce that. We usually do it on the Corona Bowl.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about it on the podcast the week after. So that's that.
We can do that.
Other than that, I think we're pretty much done with the
league
news. So we'll crack on with the rest of the show.
Let's get on to the reviews.
Yeah, exactly. And so we have a number of key games that we had last week. We did not do a podcast. We had a week off.
We did.
Which we've done pretty well, getting all the way to week 13.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, things happened. We couldn't do it, but we're going to press on. I don't think we've ever done podcasts or had articles in the last weeks of the season.
No.
They always just kind of fade away into the ether whenever it gets tired. And
we can make
I've been eliminated from playoffs. It's kind of hard to motivate myself. I promise that won't happen regardless of what happens this week. No. We will bring stuff to you. But we'll focus on this. So no marquee matchup from last week, so we'll just go through the games.
This would have been it, though.
Yeah, you're probably right, yeah. Taking the Tagface against Pakistan, a historic rivalry, even though it's a fairly new one. And there was a lot on the line. For Tagface, I think they were eliminated from the playoffs by this point. If not, they were on their absolute last lifeline. Meanwhile, Pakistan, they were vying for playoff spots. They were entering this one. They were leading the division, and they wanted to solidify that. Depending what happened elsewhere, they couldn't have secured berth necessarily, but they could have gone a long way to doing that. But looking down, as we see, heated rivalry. But Pakistan really has had Coach Merritt's number in the last few matchups, and that rings true again. That they won this one 114-88. Tell me about this game.
Absolutely. So the good thing for Phil is that even just doing some rudimentary maths there, even the players on his bench couldn't have won this game for him. So it's obviously a decent performance from Pat. So let's explain why. Now we've said all year that Pakistan's receiving core should be the forefront of how good they are. And let's be honest. I mean, we look in here and mixing in the flex doesn't really count. We can say he does a bit of everything, but then we look up Evan Ingram, great game for the Giants, and so he should do. He really is their number 2 receiver there.
Yeah.
Then you've got say Michael Thomas again, big game again. Haven't really seen too much of that this year.
Yeah.
But Julio's let him down a little bit. But this is where we want to see the improvement.
He did have a 36-point game the week before. I would just add.
This is true.
Win some, lose some, I would say.
Against a tough Vikings D as well, we have to admit. But we look here, this is where it's really impressed me, because he's taken a plunge and he's gone with Case Keenum this week, and Case Keenum's done very well.
Yeah.
That's it.
20 points.
And he's been under the radar all year. People forget this.
He's there was a coordinator that basically said that if you just watch the tape without knowing anything else, you would say he's one of the elite quarterbacks in the NFL today.
Yeah, so that's amazing. And saying he has got some decent decent weapons around him. So Lynch was the main reason why Oakland went on to win against the Giants when they had no receivers. They went with their star guy. Alex Collins has really improved. I mean, he's been the kind of the breakout, or one of the breakouts in the second half of the season. So that's where I really like that. Plus, you throw in some handy kicker and D points, get to 114.
Yeah.
Whilst you look on the other side, well, see Wentz again, big numbers, kicker and D, good numbers. Mark Ingram, we expect good numbers, but the rest of the team really isn't that impressive. We're looking. What you really want from your RB2, your wide receiver 1. Especially here when you've got some talent like Jeffrey and Evans, is you really want some double digits figures, and they just don't have that. So I think Pakistan, a team on the up. We're going to see that in the standings a little bit later on. Having been a far more well-rounded team than they ever started the season being.
Yeah, and that's exactly. I think you're right, because in some ways we expected the receiver corps to carry this team, which has not happened. We expected the running backs to be the weakness of this team, which they haven't been. They've not been, I would say, a strength, but as you can see here, they've really, they've held the roster up, so to speak.
Yeah.
Which is all you can really ask for. So Pakistan won this one. They moved to 8-6. We'll see what else happened with that in a second. So we'll move on to our next game, which is Thomas Tyrants against Cash for Gold. Now, and I mean, Thomas Tyrants eliminated from playoffs, but they're still trying to avoid Tank Bowl. Cash for Gold in the meanwhile, they entered this one 6-6. I think 6-6.
Yes.
Yeah, 6-6. Palestine are 8-5. Excuse me, not 8-6. So Cash for Gold entered this one 6-6. They really needed to win to keep their playoff hopes alive. If they lost, especially with their point deficit, realistically they were out of it in this one. Again, this is a pretty good rivalry because Tom brought Ollie to the league. And I believe Ollie had his number the first time around, but not this time. Thomas Tyrants wins a close one, a Monday night comeback, no less, with Antonio Brown, 88-85.
Sitting Cash for Gold nearly cashed in on Robbie Gould as well. I mean, look at this, 15 points from Robbie Gould, kicking where it counts.
Yeah.
They got the players on the bench to win this game. Annoyingly.
Yeah, Cam Newton just highlighting that over Ryan against Minnesota probably would have been a smarter option. Yeah,
absolutely. Seeing as Ryan has been struggling all year. Saying that, I mean, Tom could have easily won this game by a much higher margin had he used his absolute stud pickup earlier on in the year. I think Arizona is a softer D, but at the same time.
And Smith has been flagging.
Especially in the last 3 or 4 games. Yeah. So you can see why. But ultimately, it hasn't cost him. And here's the reason why. It's big performances from key players, as we say every week. Big performance from Goff, or solid performance from Goff. Big performance from Brown, big performance from Allen.
Chargers did Bilal Powell chipping in some points.
Did alright. So, other than that, there's not a lot to write home about. Say, even Jason Witten, to be fair. 8 yards and a touchdown, that represents some okay value on the day, especially tight end.
Jason Witten, a 35-year-old tight end now, I think, we'll take that.
You can see here, a 2-point difference, really, 3-point difference. Yeah. And I think here, you look at Cash for Gold, and this has been their real struggle all year, is that, you look down the list, and yes, there are some solid yardage totals, which you want from your receivers, but there aren't any touchdowns. You look at your running back, for example, Ajay hasn't been the same kind of player since he's moved to Philly. Alvin Kamara, on the other hand, oh my word! I mean, this guy is the future of that backfield in New Orleans for sure. Anyone who watched the game of the weekend will be able to see that. But at the same time, this could have been a win, and I think that it probably should have been a win. For Cash for Gold, as Nath points out, it's a QB selection. Even here, you look at Dontrell Inman, you see he's starting him. Is Aguilar in a hot offense a better option?
Well, Derrick Henry, a guy that's been getting the camera.
Absolutely, Tariq Cohen's the same sort of thing. Fourth quarter vulture.
Again, playing a Jay against a Seattle team.
That's hard. So I think we see this every year. Play the matchups. Sometimes your better players in worse matchups aren't quite as good. So your middling players in decent matchups.
I think that's something you learn as well. Like, it's easy to forget because Ollie Gardner has had a really good start to the league by all accounts, considering the lack of experience compared to everyone else. We saw it with Pat as well. When he was learning the ropes, didn't play things necessarily as well as he could have in a similar way here. But then we saw from Pat, third year in, he's obviously on the level with everyone else now, and I think you would hope to see a similar thing with Ollie next year, where last year the team wasn't great, but he did well. This year I would say the team is pretty good top to bottom.
Yeah.
It's just been the selection. So it all kind of falls together in the third year, I think, when you've got, okay, we've got to play the matchups, okay, this is kind of what we can expect from these guys, that kind of thing. So, but I agree, it's definitely a case of what could have been perhaps this season, but this is more or less what of cash regard have been all season long. As I like to keep saying, they've only topped 100 points 3 times, I think, all year. But hey, consistent nonetheless. They dropped this one, so they are now out of the playoff race. And Tom Sorens may avoid the tank bar. We'll have a look at that. But we'll go on to our next game now. Ixsan against Forge Flies. As I like to colloquial name it, the Friendship Bowl.
We both like this bowl.
It is a rivalry, but it's a timid one. It's a friendly one.
It's a very solid.
It's the Friendship Bowl.
It is.
So looking down, Forge Flies already achieved playoffs. Just looking to chalk up some more wins, making them look good. If they won this one, they got to double digits. Meanwhile, Ixsan, they had a game lead in their division, second place in the league actually. They were 8-4 entering this game, one over ADRZ, and the other teams in the Portsmouth division were also 7-5. So with another win here, they could pretty much all have sewn up their playoff berth. As it would happen though, as has been the case all season long, the best team, Forge Flies, did win in a close one.
Very.
Could have come back on Monday night. Ixsan had the Steelers. But Forge Flies won this 104 to 109 to 101.
Yeah, absolutely. And saying it was close for a while. I mean, say it was very close going into the fourth quarter on Sunday. So what we were both really pleased about is that both, largely anyway, the best players on each team were on the field. We didn't have to rely on any luck in any sense. We both had a fairly high scoring first team. Yeah, albeit Kenyon Drake's on the bench for me scoring 20 points, but hey, that doesn't happen every week. So once we get it back,
once we get the screen back, it's.
So this is a good advert for Apple TV.
Yep, absolutely. Come on, stop being.
We will get it back.
Well, it's saying it's connected, but it's definitely not.
It's definitely connected.
Maybe talk about your team first. You should know your.
I can remember my team. So let's see where we're. Here we go. We're back. So we always talk about the Holy Trinity of players, like a good foundation. So your QB and your 2 running backs. If you've got that, you're going to be okay. So we got that. And say Mario has had a good game for the first time in a while. He's had a good fantasy game. That's it. Yes, wasn't the most eye-catching performance from the Titans, but managed to get it in. So 20 points there, 15 points for Gurley, and 10 points for McCoy. Look down here, Fournette again. So it's those three running backs have really been the anchor of this team all year.
Absolutely.
About that. Larry Fitzgerald, despite the fact that he's aging like a fine wine, may I add, people.
He's still not planning on retiring.
Yeah, that's it. I was going to say. We hope. We hope. Because performances like that, he's going to be doing well. Especially when he's been thrown to by Blaine Gabbert, who, to be fair, hasn't done too badly since he's started. Marquise Goodwin, bit of a cheap pickup, but it appears to be a good one. For the last few weeks, he's been really, really handy. I must admit, the value buy of the year, the Jags D at $12.
I'm so annoyed. I just lost that.
That's it. So that has anchored the last end of the season because having that points.
Reliable D points makes the world of difference in terms of your baseline.
It does, and so you're not scoring over 100 points if you're not getting a D that's scoring 10-15 points a game. You'll have to do pretty well. On the other side, I thought Ben's team did really well.
101 points is a good week.
Absolutely is. Justin Tucker's got an obscene amount of points for a kicker. Travis Kelce had 21 points, but only 10 minutes in the end of 10 minutes in the first quarter, which was amazing. And by then you think, oh my, what am I going to be doing? Robbie Anderson, by the way, can I just say that is an unbelievable pickup mid-season.
Yeah.
He's done very, very well. And say one more touchdown anywhere on that board changes the whole game. You know, for Ixan, they've got nothing to worry about. I think towards the end of the year, we'll see later on what their matchup is for this week. But you know, you've got to be betting on them to have a strong end to the season and to make playoffs because they have a very good record.
Yep. But in the meantime, Forge Flyers gets the 10th win. Certainly locks up the number 1 seed. Ixan, they fall to 8-5, and we'll find out. We know Pakistan's like that. We'll see what the other teams do. But right now, when we see ADRZ, who were, as I just said before, they were 7-5 entering this game. So they needed a win to, at the very least, keep up, perhaps leapfrog. Ixan on the other side of the ball, but Ednators, it's been a bit of a lost season for them. Started the season really well, but a lot of stuff happened in the middle, injuries and otherwise, and it cost them. So they're really just playing to get a better bowl position right now. But you know, looking down, as I said, ADRZ are hoping to get the playoffs. And if we look at the scores, it was not a close game. ADRZ had a really impressive 120 points. To a fairly tepid 73.
Yes, indeed. It's very sad to see, but let's talk about the positives first. So, let's talk ADRZ. ADRZ have been anchored by very good performances from QB all year. Russell Wilson's, so I'd like to say it's been an inspired pickup, but it was auto-drafted. There's not quite so much of an emphasis there. But hey, Russell Wilson's been a really good player for them all year. So AJ Green, he's there every year. You know what to expect from AJ Green. He's your man. He's your go-to guy. A vintage performance from Gronk. I can say no touchdowns but massive yardage, and say fair play there. And I must admit and say this, correct me if I'm wrong, you see Greg Zuerlein and the Broncos D. Well, Greg Zuerlein in particular, I say he's
more than the Broncos.
He's the number 1 fantasy kicker, and you can see why. I mean,
in the NFL, he's got the most points now. I think he set a record for the amount of field goals he had in the first 12 games.
It's a crazy record, but again, like having good D points, having
a stable kicker like that.
What's the difference? You can't argue. Not too much to shout about on the bench, but it's all there. We'll talk about later how his playoff hopes are going to be affected because he does have 2 very key players banned for this week. And it's quite an untimely way to get banned as well. Other side, yes, but his lost season's a really good explanation for that. Throughout, there's not too much to shout about. I mean, say Rivers versus Cleveland, that's about it really. Ravens D has done very well. On the bench, not much to write home about. You know, it's a shame for Badena. As they said, they did start very well. There were shoots of potential there, but unfortunately, those shoots have been trampled.
Yeah, that's just the way, I guess, to quote Viv, the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. You had an Ertz injury here as well, which probably makes it look a bit worse than it maybe would have been had he played the full game. But it's just kind of been the story of the team all year. Really started really hot, and then things happened. Players kind of emerged and affected theirs, injuries happened, so on, and it's just what it is. It's sad, but hey,
it happens every year.
It happens every year. It's got to happen to someone. So ADRZ moved to 8-5, 8-5, and they retake the lead in the division. But it's definitely not over. Next one then, Benessus is against the Dream Team. So the Dream Team really at this point just trying to avoid the Tank Bowl. That they were in last place, I believe, entering this game. On the other side of the ball, Benessus managed to keep their slim playoff hopes alive after losing Rodgers and then not playing a DST and a kicker in that game, as we remember, which they, of course, went on to lose. We all expect, the fork was put in these guys pretty promptly, and not late as well. In terms of forkings, it was fairly early. But since they've really come back on and there's been good moves, the quarterback's been good that they've patched back in, and this team really got a new lease of life. As I said, they're entering this one. They were 6-6. They needed to win to keep their playoff hopes alive, and that's exactly what they did. 132-49.
They certainly have, and this is one of the teams which earlier on in the season we really did worry about because they had the most abysmal luck all in 1 week, but the recovery that they've had has been nothing short of pretty miraculous, really. And it's been some very, very good pickups. When you look at look at Curse, for example. I mean, say
Curse.
He's been great.
Jamal Williams was a good pickup. Obviously, they had Aaron Jones, lost him.
Dion Lewis has come into.
Dion Lewis was a great pickup.
Roethlisberger was a pickup as well. Pickup.
So even I think Delaney Walker was a pickup.
Yeah, so it's streaming the kicker in D, plus Josh McCown on the bench if we need to. So
there's been a lot of good stuff.
Absolutely, and so we see this every year from this team, and we shouldn't be surprised. And we shouldn't be surprised at the total either, because there's some guys who are coming into their own at the end of the season on teams which are hot. I mean, you look here, the Steelers, they're hot at the moment. You look at the Packers. To be fair, they got their run game together.
Patriots
are good. The Titans seem to be picking up wins from somehow. I don't really know how. They are. Kansas City's offense is completely boom and bust, but when it booms, oh my word, it go off. So that there is great. Unfortunately, I think it may be a little bit too late. They are mathematically still in the hunt for the playoffs, but they've got to have a lot of things go their way. But you never know. With totals like that, they're going to keep themselves in there. However, for the Dream Team, it's been all over for a while. The dream is over. 48
the window
points.
Is shot.
Yes, very much so. 48 points represents one of the lowest totals of the season. There's really not a lot to be positive about there. I mean, even you think Drew Brees should be the most positive thing. Even he scored 16 points, which has kind of
been the case with him this season.
Yeah.
With them, their defense being better, the run game being so good, they don't need him to be Drew Brees.
Absolutely. And so the older he gets, the more that's going to be. And unfortunately, there's not a lot shouting about on the bench either. So. It pains me to say it, but at this point of the season, it really isn't looking good for the Dream Team. On paper, they don't look great.
No, definitely not. And there's not much more you could say. Almost certainly they'll be playing in the tank while hopefully we can see them avoid a loss, but not looking good at the moment. But hey, if they win it, they at least win something.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And we've all been there. I've been there in the past. It's not a nice place to be. But, it only spurs you on to do better the next season.
Got a good forfeit bowl to look forward to.
That's true. It's not for nothing.
And then we go on to our final game of last week. So we've got Gridiron Gang taking on the Southampton Narwhals. Now, Gridiron Gang, the week before this, they were leading the division, but lost a close one in the Father-Son Bowl in a really crazy Monday night comeback, or Sunday and Monday night comeback game, which cost them the lead in the division. Patterson leapt on that and took the lead. Yeah. So Gridiron Gang needed a win here. They've got slightly less points than the other three playoff contending teams, so they really needed a win to keep up. A loss probably would have said goodbye to them. On the other side of the ball, Southampton Narwhals, one of the teams trying to avoid the Tank Bowl. Obviously, their struggles started very early on, but they've had, I think, a good season, all things considered. The wins aren't coming through, but they've had some decent scores, and they've definitely been in contention for a lot of games this year.
Yeah.
However, Gridiron Gang had to get the win when they did. As a team, they have a penchant for doing that, I would say. Got the win, 107 to 87.
Absolutely, it's all about the backs for Gridiron.
Literally all about them.
That's it. We look at the Burkhead, as it at long last showing that potential. We saw at the beginning of the season, which was that kind of smash mouth through the middle kind of running back, which he's proven here, 2 touchdowns, 78 yards, 25 yards receiving. 5
touchdowns in 3 weeks.
That's it. Say no more. He's got himself back into that offense in a big way, which has been part of the resurgence of this team, by the way.
Yep.
Jerry McKennedy's been there and thereabouts all year. He's had to timeshare a little bit recently, but still 1 touchdown and 11.2 points, still very, very good. And Le'Veon Bell said, no, he's Le'Veon Bell. I mean, what more can you say? Rest of it there, so obviously it's a not a particularly good performance from a QB.
Yeah, carrying a QB. Not often you see a team go over 100 with that performance.
You certainly don't, absolutely. But you do see that with the very underrated Rams D, and they are very underrated. And Devin Funchess showing some flashes of potential which he should have been seeing all year. Other than that, not too much to shout about. And on the bench,
you would have got up to about 125 something.
With Stafford there, I dare say. Other than that, it's been really good. On the other side, you've got the Narwhals here. Again, they've shown some sort of resurgence over the course of the last couple of weeks. We said they're a bit of a ragtag bunch at the beginning of the season, and it kind of shows here. They can't really get a solid team selection. Jaden McKissick, that's it. Yeah, he scores 7 points. He ain't going to do that every week. Theoretically, he's not going to score a touchdown every week. You're looking down the board here a little bit. Hilton should be their star player, but doesn't play like it every week, mainly because of the QB situation there. And again, it's a solid kicker in D, which really is the foundation of their success. I mean, save Gostkowski and the Seahawks, you couldn't really pick a better two in those two positions over the course of the league. Again, not a lot to shout about on the bench. So, so the Narwhals, I think they've done very well to get where they have.
Yeah.
What the Poppy was saying, it was not 6 weeks ago that I said very boldly this was the worst team we've ever seen in the LOC. They've proved that wrong, which I'm very pleased to report.
Yeah.
And to get to I think 5 wins now. Is it 6 or 6?
Well, I think there are 4 right now.
Okay.
4 right now. Yeah.
So to get to that number of wins with that team represents a real progress.
Yeah, absolutely.
For the Narwhals.
And just to finish up on that, I think in that game the thing that cost Southampton Narwhals, which really is the thing that usually wins them or gets them in the game, is Tom Brady.
Yes.
Didn't throw a single touchdown last week. Is what it is. It was to my benefit, Rex Burkhead, who I've been gleefully hanging on to for months, and it finally paid off.
Quite right, yeah.
So that is the games of last week. Before we continue, I will just check we're recording, as it's always good to just double check and
there we are.
make sure. Oh look, there we are indeed. So so 1 second. As we said, so lots of crucial games last week, and now really it is crunch time, as we'll see in a second with the standings.
Very much so.
Let's just check. Oh, we're still going.
Oh, there's going to be a big video of us.
Suspenseful. Yeah, it's.
There we go. LOC background. That's what you want.
Yeah. You know what? I'm just gonna walk around and check.
This is kind of half time in this. That's it.
Yeah, half time. Oh, we've got a view of that text.
Because you know what's coming next, people. You know what's coming next.
You know what's coming next.
It's the same every week.
Yeah. So we'll just continue.
Yes.
Looking at the divisions, the Southampton division, Forge Flies right at the top, where they have been pretty much all season long, if not all season long. They're at 10-3 now. I think the first team to achieve double-digit wins maybe since 2014.
Massive. That's it.
I think it's been a while, maybe not. But still, double-digit wins, it's impressive. And with one more win, you've tied your career best for a season. Indeed. One more win, you'll beat that. Meanwhile, Benedetta is there at 5-8. They're probably safely second in the division, but they're not going to the playoffs, so they can just jostle about for the forfeit playoffs. Southampton Narwhals and Dream Team both at 4-9. Right now, as we were saying, it's going to be a pretty monumental effort for either of these teams to not play in the tank bowl. I think the Dream Team is solidly in there with only 1,100 points, and apart from Southampton Narwhals, the next lowest within one win is 1,200, so it's pretty out of reach. But for Southampton Narwhals, they've got a chance. They are 4-9, 1,166. So it would take a lot, but you never know. A collapse and a win.
A 40-point swing towards Tom's Tyrants, you never know.
You never know. But in the meantime, those are our 2 tank bowl compadres. Coach Wells has just texted me saying to read the chat. Unfortunately, Nige, we have the iPad pointing us the other way, so we can't see the screen. If you just message me what you were saying, we will happily read out, and we love interacting as we go on.
All comments are welcome, absolutely.
Yeah, we can't do it this way. It's just how we've got to do it. But please message. So, pause division then. So, it's getting really interesting in the playoff race. So, we'll come back to the playoff bit of it. We'll just look at the other two here. Ben Assist is 7-6. They're realistically out of it. They're a win behind all the playoff teams. The closest points they have are the Gridiron Gang, and even then, they're about 55 points behind them. Yeah. So, reasonably, playoffs are a no-no for them. But still mathematically, right?
Yeah.
In a real world, you never know.
Which would be the outside bet at this point. I mean, wow,
definitely would. And then Cash for Gold 6 and 7, as we say, they're just jostling in the forfeit playoffs. So Coach Wells has said he would like to congratulate Chris for the most wins of the season. Well played.
Thank you, Nigel. That's very kind of you. Thank you. That's it. Yeah, coming from a former holder of the Cronenberg, that is very kind.
Yeah, exactly. So, what else we got? So, yeah, Cash for Gold. Going down the Winchester division, again, we'll come back to these two here. But looking at Tank Face there, 5-8, as are Tom's Tyrants again. Really just jostling for position in the forfeit bowl, as we said, Tom's Tyrants. They need to do something to make sure they don't fall into the tank bowl, though they should be safe. Now, we will look at the playoff picture quickly. So, we've got 2 divisions, and the picture is very similar. Portsmouth division, Pakistan and Gridiron Gang, both 8 and 5. Gridiron Gang is 20 points behind Pakistan, so if both of these teams lose, there's still a chance that the things could swap about here. But as it stands, one win and a loss by the other would seal it. in the Winchester division, it's really kind of a similar story. Both teams are 8 and 5. Ixsan is about 40 points behind ADRZ, so they are further behind. But again, we've seen crazier things happen in the league. That's not an insurmountable swing by any means. So even if both these teams lose, there's a potential for Ixsan overtaking them, and that's excellent timing.
That's it. And also, as we said earlier on, that you see Ben Necessities, well, they're behind everybody else on 7 and 6. Yeah. But if all the teams lose, somehow, if all the teams, because they're not playing each other, if all the teams lose to another team and they win by a swing of more than 55 points, then they can get into the playoffs.
That's only over... over Gridiron. Yeah, that's true. So, and then there's the wild card to worry about. So, independent what will happen goes on there. The team with the next best record and points, excuse me, will then be in the playoffs. Right now, that's skewed against Gridiron Gang, as they do have the lowest amount of points. Yep. But if 3 teams win and 1 team loses, the 1 team that loses will miss out. If all of them win, then it comes down to points. And if 2 of them win and 2 of them lose, then again it comes down to points, depending how those fall out. And really, there is quite a disparity. It would take quite a big swing, I think, for if there was a tie team, for anything to swing. But that's where we are right now. So it's got the makings of a really interesting final week. So it really annoys me that this thing keeps turning off, even though I keep putting my finger on it to make sure it doesn't. Hey ho.
There we go.
So now we'll skip over the power rankings because it's pretty cut and dry at this point of the season. We'll just take a look at the breakdown because again, this kind of tend to shine light on who's overachieved and underachieved the season. And speaking of underachieving, Billerne is second in this, so even though they had a bad week last week, they've been pretty good. Not so much recently, but throughout the season to get where they are fortified at the top, which everyone expects. And then you have the 4 playoff teams from 3rd to 7th. Again, what you'd expect. Tanky with Tankface. There has been some commentary about they've conceded a lot. Well, I don't buy into that necessarily. If you go and look at their schedule, a lot of times they've not gone over 100 and they've just had lots of points scored on them. So some of that is artificial. But of course, in some cases as well, it has cost them games. So they should have probably won more than they had. And then the usual suspects you can see down here. So this was kind of a mixed bag at some point in the season, but it's kind of all fell out where it probably should be.
Well, that's it. I guess there are some massive overachievers here. And I say big shout out to Ben Necessities, massive overachiever there. So there should be 8th place. They're actually 5th place overall.
I think the biggest overachiever of all.
Indeed, Cashmere at the bottom, and they're ranked 12th out of 12th in the OC, and they're 7th, I think, overall at the moment. So yeah, fair play there. So there's either some very good luck or some very interesting team performances there. Yeah,
absolutely. We're back. So now we'll take a look at next week's games, and for the interest of playoffs, we'll cover the ones that aren't relevant first.
Yeah, absolutely.
But before we do that, of course, we'll look at the accolades, because we have actually some really impressive ones this week. So, Coach Stubbs Senior notched his 70th regular season win, which is the first team to 70 regular season wins. So that's a great achievement. Massive, yeah. Any other milestones that we've got? Coach Merritt lost last week, so they don't have one.
I could win my 60th regular season win.
You could, yeah. There's a lot of nearlies. Coach Barnes gets 70th career win. Yeah, you get 60th regular season and career win. Coach Nunn could get his 30th career win. Excuse me.
Let's have a look here. Who else we got?
Coach Sherwood could notch his 50th regular season loss.
That's it.
Nunn could also notch his 40th regular season loss.
Viv could get his 50th regular season win.
Yeah, Pat could notch his 20th regular season loss. So there's some interesting stuff going around. Seriously, why does this keep doing?
Absolutely.
There's interesting stuff going around, so always something to play for. And it's quite ridiculous if you look. We've had teams play over 130, some as many as 130 games now, which is a lot of fantasy games.
130 games, 125. So that's mad.
Yeah,
that is mad.
A lot of you can tell where the rookies are as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now we will go and look at last week's games at long last. So sorry, this week's games. That is not this week's game. What is happening?
That is last week's game.
No.
That's also last week's game.
No, this is projection.
Oh, it's projections.
There we go. So, right.
Yes, it is. Yes.
As I said, we'll cover non-playoff related stuff first, and we'll start with this one. So, Cash for Gold versus Forge Flyers. We won't spend a lot of time on these because there's nothing to play for, just jostling for playoff position for Cash for Gold, and Forge Flyers trying to exceed his career best wins.
Yes.
Looking down the lineups, projections currently have it slim favourite, 97 to 95, in favour of Cash for Gold. The history of this matchup.
Ooh, I didn't know this. What is this?
It's probably not a lot. So Forge Flyers are 0-1 against Cash for Gold all the time. Dear. So you've only faced each other once, unsurprisingly.
Yep.
That's not the game. That's last week's games again.
They are here somewhere.
Not ideal. Yeah. Who you got taking this game and why?
That's it. Well, I think that the record speaks for itself. I mean, say Forge Flyers, as we've seen, 10-3 over the course of the season.
Yeah.
They just have better players. I mean, say when you have the trio is fit again, so McCoy, Gurley, and Fournette. Yes, it's not a particularly good matchup for Fournette against Seattle, but they are playing in Jacksonville. And say Seattle, they melt this time of the year when they go to Florida. Say McCoy against Indianapolis, which again is a great matchup. And Gurley against Philly, which has all the makings of a bit of a shootout in Los Angeles, which is good.
Sure does.
I also like the receiving matchups this week for me. I have Marquise Goodwin against Houston, who just love giving touchdowns and points to receivers. I have Safarian Jenkins against Denver, who can't defend against tight ends. Larry's playing Tennessee, who've been really up and down on D this year. And to top it all off, Mario's playing Arizona as well. Or, if I fancy it, Derek Carr's playing Kansas City, and they love giving points to receivers as well.
Yeah, sure.
So all in, that does look like a few tasty matchups.
Yeah.
A lot of players, there's lots of like Jags and Titans and Cardinals on here. So they're all playing each other, which is a bit interesting. On the other side, Matt Ryan against New Orleans. That tonight has all the makings again. A bit of a shootout. So I think that's really interesting. Derrick Henry has been an absolute star, as well as Kamara. If you talk about this partnership here they've got at running back in 3 years' time, and I tell you that won't look silly, because that is going to be solid. Across the course of the ball, go and take his Tampa, I like that. I don't like Baldwin against Jacksonville, because Jacksonville's been really good against receivers this year. But other than that, I think that there's also the Eagles against LA. I think that's got the makings of a bit of a beatdown, or certainly a high-scoring game for D's.
Bad game,
yeah. So I like the matchups more for Forge Flyers than Cash for Gold. I think the Cash for Gold have been very up and down all year, and I must admit, I'm going to take my own team.
Yeah, I think there can be some fireworks in this game. As you said, there's some shootout potential in some of these games. Some good matchups. You have some too. So I don't think it's done, dusted, signed, so delivered. But I'm going to pick Forge Flyers as well. Go with the quality and go with the team that scores over 100 points more often than not.
It's going to be the last fun sort of pressure-free game for the rest of the year.
Yeah, for the rest of the year to finish the season. Well, you might have week 16 Kumar to look forward to.
I hope not. Well, hard work for nothing.
That's a playoff game, and that's a playoff. So all the rest of the playoff games, so we'll cover the least relevant of the playoffs, I think it's fair to say. Ben assisted against Tom Sarrance, whereas we already just beat to death. Ben assisted. While they're mathematically still able to make the playoffs, it would take a humongous swing, multiple losses, or at least one loss in a big swing if it's Gridiron Gang. That's pretty much their only win, actually. Gridiron Gang needs to lose and they need to win big. Actually, no, they need another team to then lose as well, and they need to outscore, so it's pretty much over. But they are still alive. Meanwhile, Tom Sarrance, as we said earlier, they really don't want to play in the Tank Bowl. No one does. And really all they need to do is put up some points to do that. They don't even need to win the game. That would just be icing on the cake. So, the history of this matchup. Let's take a look. See, so Ben Cities are 4-4 against Tom Sarrance all time. So pretty close one in terms of the books. The game is hit. So, who you got and why for this one?
I like Ben Cities a lot. I like some more as the week's gone on. I must admit, there are some sticky points here, which there's not many of them. Curtis against Denver, don't like that. He's been very good recently, but I think they might struggle there. And Roethlisberger against Bolt, well, let's say Bolt have been quite good on D recently, but Roethlisberger in fantasy is very, very good. So you can't argue with that. Other than that, Bengals against Chicago, I like that a lot.
I'd say Lewis, Miami, Williams against Cleveland as well. Those are two pretty plus matchups.
That's it, and Hill versus Oakland.
Yeah, shaping up quite nicely.
That's good as well. So I said that's shaping up really nicely, as you say. On the other side, I think Goff at home against Philly, as we said earlier on, that could well be a real good shootout. Brown against Bolt, that's going to be the key matchup here. I think is how the Steelers can get around doing that. And Allen against Washington again. That's a good matchup for them, especially on the West Coast. But I think Tom's been on the down over the last couple of weeks. Bears has to be on the up. I think there's more potential for fireworks and more explosive play here than there is on the other side, and that's why I'm going for Benes.
Yeah, I'd agree. There are some pretty horrible matchups on this side of the ball, and not necessarily the talent to back it up in some cases as well. Devontae Booker's in the starting lineup. He kind of tells you what kind of season it's been for Coach Barnes, unfortunately. But as you say, Benes looks good to win, and with an outside chance, might get a playoff berth. So let's look at the other games this week now. Let's start with this one. Gridiron Gang against Tanky McTankface. And this is a rivalry one if there ever was. So we're not going to pick marquee matchups this week because the whole league is a marquee matchup. That's our gift to you. So Gridiron Gang taking on Tanky McTankface. Two of the founding teams of the league. Were very good in the early days. Haven't had as much glory of late. But there's a lot of rivalry potential here. So Gridiron Gang, as we say, they are not winning in. They need win and a little bit of help, either a loss or a bit of a point swing over Pakistan. But winning is first and foremost, really, to cure everything that ails. On the other side of the ball, as we said, Tanks, they are done in terms of playoff hopes, jostling for position in the forfeit playoffs and hoping to get one last laugh over a playoff hopeful before we end the season. Looking at the history of this matchup, Gridiron Gang are 5-7 all time against Tanky McTankface, so a bit of bonus on Tanky McTankface's side. But tell me about who will win this game and why.
Okay, so let's have a look here and see what's what. Now, it was all about the backs, as we said earlier on last week for Gridiron Gang. He's put Giovanni Bernard in now. Giovanni Bernard's interesting pickup because last week he did very, very well, fantasy-wise, as soon as Mixon went down. So I can see why you've done that. Against Chicago as well, you like to think they'd be running the game there.
At home.
Exactly. So I like that. Le'Veon Bell against Bolts with a decent run D. Now it's going to be not quite as interesting as last week. It's not going to be maybe quite as free flowing. But he's Le'Veon Bell.
And he got 2 touchdowns and over 100 and something yards last time he played ball.
He's underrated. His ability as a receiver is underrated.
Yeah.
So that could be easily one to see there. I like Dez against the Giants, that's good.
Like Norris Jenkins.
That's it. That's it really well. That's it. That's not going to be a good matchup with Jack Dolan's Buffalo. But hey, that's it.
They're pretty soft in Giants. 20th in the league.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. They're in the bottom third. Have you managed to pick up Harrison Butker, which is good. He's a solid kick, especially.
I was sad enough to nab a kicker while they were on a bye week.
There you go.
When another team had dropped him.
Absolute gypsy move.
I'm an expert at those kind of moves. That's how I make my teams.
But he was, when he first came into that team, started very, very explosive as a kicker, and we may see that again if Kansas City's offense increases. On the other side, it's it. Taking the Tankface, it's all over for them. But you do like wins against Los Angeles, despite the fact they've got a decent D these days. If Ingram doesn't play, which he may well do, then you got like Murray against Arizona, which is good. You might even play Peyton Barr, might even throw him in there. Why not?
Yeah, why not?
So again, if it's I like the Wentz and Jeffrey combo there, especially in a game which has the potential to be a shootout, is good. See it. Patriots D against Miami. When you're playing Jay Cutler, there's always potential for turnovers. And Devon Adams against Cleveland. So if Brett Hundley can get himself together against Cleveland, which you'd like to think he'd be able to, since there are college teams that play better than them, then that should be a good score. So I think already it's quite close. I think Gridiron Gang on the up though. I think Taking Tanks on the way down. And let's be honest, Gridiron Gang need this win.
Yeah, Gridiron Gang need a win when the pressure's on. Sometimes it comes through, sometimes it doesn't.
And you could play Dalton against Chicago as well.
Yeah, that's an option depending on what Stafford's hand is looking like come the weekend. So, I am going to go my team, but it's a hesitant my team because I've kind of been waiting for collapse week. Every team has them every now and then. Even your team had them a few weeks ago. Yeah. I've staved one off for quite a while now. It's not really since the start of the season that I've had proper collapse weeks. I'm waiting for one, put it that way. I'll probably just jinx myself there.
Don't fall back. Yes.
Yeah, there we go. That's some wood, there we go. Yeah, I'm waiting for that. But, as you say, the recent history was on my side. They're a good team. Tank base, it's kind of, you don't know what you're going to get. They could have a disappointing week. They could have a great week or something in between. You're not really sure. So, it's a hesitant. I'm going to go with my team because they have been consistent, albeit I'm waiting for that week. And also wouldn't be surprised me if Tank base put a nice week together as well.
Absolutely.
So, that's that. We've done that game, so we will do this game, Ixan against Bedednator. So as we say, for Ixan, really it's winning in. The point spread, if they win, is irrelevant. If they win, they're in, pretty much. So looking at this, and then on Bedednator's side of the ball, as we say, forfeit playoff ramifications depending on how they do. So let's look at the history of this game. Obviously, the current champion trying to make playoffs for yet another year in a row and potentially try and repeat. Ixan 5-4 against Bedednator all time, so we're pretty close on all regards. Tell me who will win this game and why.
Well, we've got a lot of Bedednators playing away. Now, I say that I got a funny hoodoo with players playing away because you just when you're playing at home you get that extra 10%. And I think Bedednator's are going to need the extra 10% this week, which they're not going to get because you've got two of Washington's finest playing on the West Coast, which is a real change of scene for them. We tend to see that sort of thing, don't we?
And you've got two of the Chargers finest playing them as well.
That's it at home, which is what you want. So maybe that doesn't equate, but anyway, Diggs playing against Carolina's a challenge anyway. Ertz won't play, so they don't have a genuine tight end option.
And ADRZ has signed them all.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, we missed that. Sorry, no way. There's Cameron Brate.
David Nkoju's on there and Joku, and there's a Cameron Brate's there as well. So there's not that much left in terms of quality there. Hyde against Houston should be a good matchup on paper. It's just how much he gets used. And then the Ravens against Pittsburgh, I think they're going to get wrecked. On the other side, Ixan pushed us close last week. I think here there are some decent matchups on paper. You've got the Steelers against Bolt. Flacco's had an awful year. With turning stuff over. Kelsey against Oakland, I like that a lot. I'd say I like anyone involved in the Philly and LA game. So Sammy Watkins there is looking good. Ted Ginn was a useful pickup last week. He's pretty good in the slot. And Miller against San Francisco should be a rollover for him. Yeah. So I think they're a much more positive matchup with better players here. And it'd be interesting to see if Robbie Anderson competes against Denver.
Yeah, I keep the leaders back this week as well, so he'll likely go off
after fighting.
After having an MMA match on a football field with Michael Bradford.
Indeed. So yeah, I like Ixan for this. I think again they need to win. I think they have the players to win, and I think Bedednator is unfortunately, as we've seen, been on the slide for many weeks, and that won't come back.
Yeah. So I'll agree. Ixan, they've been the better team. They've been good of late. Bedednators, they haven't been the same since early on. So it would be a real shock to see them overcome Ixan in this one. ADLZ against the Dream Team then, and this is interesting because these are have been two playoff teams in previous years, and they've played each other a lot. And Nigel just messaged in, so we'll make sure we read his message in a second. So they've played each other a lot in history, but it's really two opposite ends of the spectrum this week because ADLZ vying for playoffs, currently leading the division. They are like Ixan, winning in for them. Essentially, Dream Team on the other side of the ball. Almost certainly preparing for the Tank Bowl. Almost certainly. Again, outside Ben says some scary, crazy maths. The only thing getting them out of it, so they're probably in it. I will read ADLZ's message right now, just before we read this one, and it leads on to stuff nicely as well. So there's a conspiracy against ADLZ. 2 suspended players, 3 with possible injuries, and Wilson faces the best in the league. We'll cover all that off in a second, you better believe it. But first we're going to just check the history of this matchup. So ADLZ are 7-3 all time against the Dream Team. Wow. So history is on their side. It is a nice easy matchup to end the regular season. Will it turn out that way or not, though?
I believe so.
Tell me. Yeah.
I believe so. I see this, and here's why. Dream Team is difficult to come back, and they've had weeks of 65 points and 48 points in 2 consecutive weeks. Their players aren't in good form right now. That's it. And across the board, we haven't seen any sorts of, growth as such over the last few weeks. So we're going to look for some positives first of all in the Dream Team, because I think that's where we've got to start. I think Breeze against Atlanta, if there's not going to be if there's going to be a game this year where he doesn't pick it up, it's going to be this one. So you'd like to think these guys are going to be throwing a lot.
In games where the defense hasn't been able to keep teams off the board, Breeze has done well.
Absolutely. Oh, hello now.
It's alright, if you need to step out, I can...
Yes, sorry everybody.
It's okay. So I'll pick it up. So as you said, Breeze should be good for this weekend. Behind that, you've got Jordan Howard, who he's had some really good games this year. As long as he gets the ball, he'll put up with numbers. Thielen's been an absolute superstar all season long. He should continue to cook, which brings us on to Jared Cook, the Cookie Monster. He could have a good game in what pictures to be a shootout this week as well. Texans D against San Francisco as well. We'll see what Garoppolo can do, but that could be a nice matchup as well. Behind that, though, there's some options. Starting Shepard, Deshaun Jackson, Duke Johnson. Nothing inspiring, really. Maybe they go to someone like Amir Abdullah if he's healthy, or maybe even Josh Dodson, but we'll have to see. On the other side of the ball for ADRZ, as we were just reading out, there's a lot going on for ADRZ at the moment. As he said, Russell Wilson, who's been a great quarterback, he has put up some great points the last few weeks. He's playing the league's best defense cross country. Seattle does not travel to the East Coast well historically, so that could be a challenge for them. Isaiah Crowell, Brown's running game is really unpredictable. He could do well, you never know. Damian Williams against New England is not a great matchup. Miami haven't had a good offense. AJ Green is against Chicago. You think he'd do well, but Chicago have a sneaky good defense at times. Hopkins should eat against San Francisco. Meanwhile, Cameron Brate, obviously, there without Rob Gronkowski, who's been suspended. That was a huge hit to this team. Cameron Brate, with Winston in the centre, has been pretty good this season. We'll see if he can continue that. Jonathan Stewart against Minnesota. Minnesota, that's not a good matchup. Stewart is obviously in a timeshare as well, so we will see how he does there. And then you've got Greg Zuerlein against Philly. He'll continue to produce, I guess, all season long. And the Broncos against New York Jets, which isn't necessarily as good as it sounds. They are at home in Mile High, but the Broncos D has not been the same this season. Jets have, for what it's worth, been pretty good on offense. They could have another good day. And obviously they've lost Juju Smith-Schuster to a suspension as well. So that's that. Thinking about who might win this game, it's a tough one to call. I don't think it's going to be a classic by any means of the word, because ADRZ clearly are not at full strength at such a crucial time in the season. But equally, the Dream Team have been a bit of a poor team, just how it's come out this season. But who am I going to pick to win? I mean, you can't pick against ADRZ because they have been so good this season and in recent weeks. Okay, they're definitely not at full strength. But would I take, a 70-60% ADRZ overall? Pretty much 90%, I would say. 80% Dream Team. I think you have to. But I will add a word of caution to that. Because you never know. This profiles as a trap week for the Dream Team, and if for ADRZ, sorry, and the Dream Team could muster some good points to finish the season, but ultimately I think you can't go any way against ADRZ. And Chris Leach, I'm sure, would agree with me if he wasn't busy manning the UK phone exchange. So ADRZ also said 5 is in the post, so I don't know what you're saying, Nige. That wasn't meant to come out publicly, what I was going to do to help it. Anyway, so there we go. Next game then, we've got Pakistan against the Southampton Knowles. So as we said as well, Coach Nunn isn't a newcomer to the league, but he unretired to come back into the league. Pakistan, he's got some years under his belt now. This is his 4th season, I think. He's in with a chance for playoffs for the 2nd year of a row. Currently leading the division. Win and make sure they get enough points, assuming Gridiron Gang wins as well, and they'll be in no problems. On the other side of the ball, Southampton Narwhals, they are realistically preparing for a tank bowl. However, if they win and outscore Tom's Tyrants, who lose by 40 points, there is a chance they can avoid it. So there's still a bit to play for them, excuse me. So looking at the history of this matchup then, what we got? So Pakistan are 1-1 against the Southampton Narwhals all the time, so they haven't faced each other a lot. So it could go either way. Looking down the lineup, so let's start on Southampton Narwhals side. We know the story with them. They've been a consistent team for all season long. Even though it's not been at a very high level, the wins haven't been there, and they've done very well to overcome their early injuries. Looking down the lineup, they've got Brady against Miami. That profiles as a good matchup. Riddick against Tampa Bay. If Abdullah misses the game, he should be good. McKissick against Jacksonville isn't great. Then you've got Jones against Tampa Bay. Landry against New England. He's historically had success against New England. Graham against Jacksonville, that's not great, but Graham has been a good option of late. Hilton against Buffalo, not the best. Gostkowski's one of the best kickers in the league, and then the Seahawks defense against Jacksonville. Jacksonville's offense is not the best. Seahawks are one of the best teams of the league. They could have a very good day there if things go their way. On the other side of the ball, Pakistan, they're still rolling with Case Keenum. You have to wonder if Dak Prescott comes back in, playing the New York Giants, but right now he's got Keenum against Carolina. It's an okay matchup, but not the best. Lynch against KC. Their defense hasn't been the best, but they might be able to stop him. Throwing Alex Collins against Pittsburgh. That doesn't profile as a good matchup at all, because Pittsburgh have been very good lately. Jones plays on Thursday night against New Orleans, but he hasn't been the best this season, I think it's fair to say. Michael Thomas against Atlanta. Again, Michael Thomas, he's been good, but they just haven't been passing as much in New Orleans. So it's a question whether he gets enough points as well. Evan Ingram's playing against Dallas. You've got to figure he should do well, though Sean Smith should be returning, which could potentially put a dent in that. Joe Mixon playing Chicago. If he plays, I don't think he will, so he probably won't be in the lineup. Well, that's fine. They added a defense Packers against Cleveland, which on the face of it sounds good, but they've now got Corey Coleman, Josh Gordon. They could maybe put together a run game, and the Packers D is not good either, so no, that might not be as good as it sounds. On the bench, who would they probably bring in for Joe Mixon? Maybe Chris Hogan against Miami, Alfred Morris against the Giants, something.
Christian
McCaffrey against Minnesota. None of them particularly inspiring options, no. I would say. So we've already covered Southampton Narwhals. Who am I going to pick to win this game?
Very good question.
I think it's like we have all along. We're being very, 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 what's the word? Tame. Very conservative in picking these games. I don't think either me or Chris wants to pick against one of the playoff hopefuls just because they have got the history on the side. Yeah. They have been good teams this season. And I think you have to go with the same here. But with the caveat we've said with pretty much all of the playoff matchups is actually, we're going to go with the playoff hopeful, but it's not signed, sealed and delivered, because Southampton Arms could definitely put together a good week, and Pakistan have some potential for faltering there.
Agreed.
What do you think?
I think very similar lines to you. I do think that the Pakistan have the better team. Certainly said they're on the receiving cause better. But yes, the matchups aren't quite there this week. It should be an interesting game. I think that they're going to struggle more, especially when they've got to put the Packers D against Cleveland. I think could well be an axis into which to pivot this week. But yeah, it's tough on both sides. I must admit though, Pakistan, for me, they're where they are because of recent form, and I can't look past them.
Yep, and that's that. So based on that, we have all of the playoff teams winning, which would mean, depending how the points swing between Gridiron Gang and Pakistan, we would see Iksan and Egazi certainly in the playoffs, with one of Pakistan and Gridiron Gang, depending how the points fall out. So there you go. So even we can't call exactly what it's going to be. So that is all the games for next week. That is your podcast. Next time we'll be with you, hopefully again next Thursday.
Absolutely.
We will be discussing what happened in the last week of the season, who the playoff teams are, the forfeit ball matchups, and looking at those playoff matchups as well. So thanks for joining us. It was good to get one more proper podcast in. Last week of the regular season. Best of luck this weekend. Nige says, great job, guys. Thank you for watching.
Nige,
we always like viewers. It makes it a lot more enjoyable for us.
Sure does.
So if you're around, come watch the games on Sunday. If not, you're more than welcome to every other week or whatever. So good luck this weekend. Have a good weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Take care. Cheers now.